Welcome to the Tech Titan Webinar Wednesday series with Intermedia. So I want to thank you for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedule to attend today's webinar. So my name is Kim Withrow, and I'm the manager of the sales engineering team at Intermedia. And today we're going to be talking about the SecuriSync ShareSync product and file streaming versus the syncing mode. But before we get started, I just want to do a quick check-in and make sure everybody can hear me. So if you could give me a thumbs up or a smiley emoji using your top center of your screen. Excellent. Hey there, Brad. Thanks for the email. Appreciate it, Brad Thompson. Thank you, everybody. That looks great. Intermedia's Webinar Wednesdays is a very popular series of webinars. It's broken up into 3 separate tracks, which you can see on the screen right now. The first track is the Business Builder, which is a track that is designed to help you as a partner grow your business and ultimately your success with Intermedia. And then the Tech Titan track, which is what today's webinar is a part of, is designed to give you deep technical dives and demos into features that can bring value to you and your customers. And then these 2 tracks alternate Wednesdays and are scheduled for 11 a.m. Pacific time. Now, lastly, we also have the CCAS, which is Contact Center as a Software training that takes place every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. So between all of these tracks, you actually have an opportunity to attend 2 webinars each Wednesday with Intermedia. So to get more information, you could go to the link on the screen. It's intermediawebinars.com, and you can register for upcoming webinars, and you can also get to the recordings for past webinars if you're interested in listening to any of those. So I'd like to hear from you. So that shout out I gave to Brad Thompson, I saw his emoji flying across the screen. He actually sent in some feedback to the techtitan@intermedia.net email address that I created. Really like to hear from the partners and get your ideas and thoughts on future topics that you would like covered or any area that you would like fleshed out in more detail in these webinar series. I'm all ears, so please send me an email. I'd really appreciate it. So just to make sure you understand how the webinar works, if you haven't attended one of these before, we're going to be taking about 30 minutes of your time today, and about 15-20 minutes of that is going to be the presentation and the demo, and then the last part will be the Q&A section. So if you have a question, please click on that blue question mark square in the top center of your screen. That's going to open a dialog box. It'll let you type in the question. It'll send it over to me, the moderator, and then Mike and I will go through those at the end of the webinar. There's also some other controls there. You already used the emoji one. And then if you want to switch back and forth between your phone or using your built-in audio on your computer, you can use that third button there. All right, just want to make sure that everybody is aware of our NFR program. So NFR stands for not for resale, and it allows you as a partner with Intermedia to sign up for Intermedia products for yourself, for your own company at a steep discount and even sometimes free. So the best way to, sell a product is to really understand it. And the best way to understand it is to use it yourself. So I want to encourage everybody to take advantage of this NFR account abilities. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a quick poll here. I'd like to just ask people if they would like to have someone reach out to them about setting up an NFR account. So if everybody could take a minute here to answer this question, I'd really appreciate it. So again, the NFR account gives you steep discounts and even sometimes free products. And so really want to make sure you take advantage of that. All right. I see the numbers going up, so I'm just going to leave the poll up on the screen for another minute or 2. And if you haven't answered, please go ahead and answer because I am going to close the poll now. All right, I'm closing the poll. Thank you guys so much for that. Really appreciate it. For those of you who asked for someone to reach out, we will definitely do that. And someone will be in contact with you within the next couple of days. And then let me just start my my screen share again. Give me a second here. I'm having trouble finding it now, of course. Oh, okay, here we go. Hold on. There it is. Sorry, guys. All right, so then last but not least, I just want to introduce Mike and myself. So that's me up in the top there. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Kim Withrow, manage the sales engineering team at Intermedia. I've been lucky enough to be employed with Intermedia for over 10 years. I started as a level 2 support engineer, and then I moved up into management in the client services side and ran the data onboarding cloud concierge team. And then about 2.5 years ago or so, I moved over and started managing the sales engineering team, and I also managed the sales product specialist team. Right below me there in that nice suit coat is Mr. Mike Vitale. Mike is one of the Intermedia sales engineers, and he's been with Intermedia for just over 3 years. However, he's got over 20 years of experience in the technology industry, and it includes experience with LAN and WAN networking, telephony, security, desktop productivity, and cloud services. So his focus today is really on Intermedia security and application services, and that builds on Mike's experience and really his desire to help make communication easier and more accessible for everyone. So if you've been on a call with the sales engineering team, then you've likely talked to Mike on the phone and you've encountered his smooth and informative demos. He works with partners daily to support their selling from a technical perspective, and he's primarily focused on archiving, encryption, and the M365 products, as well as ShareSync. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Mike and let him take over from there. Take it away, Mike.
Great, thank you, Kim, and thanks everybody for joining. So yeah, I'm going to be going through today as the title. I know that's why you're here. The SecuriSync or ShareSync services, and a few things. And just I think before I get going, everyone should be able to see my screen. Just a thumbs up. Again, using those emoji options. All right, great. The other is I'd like to know. Oh, perfect. Those of you who are there, if you have, by ways of thumbs up or thumbs down in this case, those who have done a SecuriSync installation or those who perhaps have not. So if you have not, you can give me in this case, a thumbs down, just so I know. Okay, so this is going to be fairly new. All right, we have some. All right, very good. Well, that helps me out. So the 4 areas that I'm going to cover, the installation options. These are questions that I get. I may have talked to some of you about it who are on the phone. Certainly we get them about, first of all, how to install and what are the resources, and then selecting between the traditional SecuriSync or ShareSync syncing mode as well as the streaming mode. So the streaming mode was introduced, a while ago, but the syncing service is there, and that's the one that's been around the longest. And then installing the different modes, and then the last part is using it a little bit for document management. So I'll just hit some of these as we're going through it. What I also want to let you know is that I'll be showing some where you can get some other resources, because I know those are often asked for and important. So for anyone who perhaps may be new to the file sharing and sync service that we provide, I'm going to be showing the SecuriSync service, but it is exactly for that. There is a growing, and have been for years, but now really a growing importance to make sure that your data is files, folders, images, videos, whatever it may be, on your PC or your Mac, that you can back up and have that should something happen to the hard drive, whether it fails or ransomware or other. So that's really what we're going to be looking at and focusing on. So since most of you probably have seen that, I just wanted, for those who perhaps have not, want to mention that. The other thing is SecuriSync, if you're not familiar with it, is available with Intermedia Unite. And Unite is our unified communication service. So as I'm showing here, there is, it's integrated with the with other services, of course, including calling and chat and any meeting, what we're using right now. The webinar feature, but it is integrated with that. So if you have customers who are looking for other types of services, certainly consider Unite for that. So what I want to look at is the ways, first of all, that you can get the SecuriSync application. So the application is available for both Windows and Mac OS, as well as iPhone, iPad, and Android. I haven't tested it yet on the new M1 Macs, but I think that'll be coming as well, certainly as Apple continues to open that up. but for most of the Mac OS operating systems you'll probably encounter, and certainly for Windows 10, Windows 7, this will run on it. What I want to note is that there are, as you know, the focus of this discussion is there are two installation options. It's the same client that you download, but there are two modes and that you can get to. And there's manual installation of this both on Windows and Mac. If you do want to do a mass installation, so probably customers larger than 100, or that is available for Windows only. So just keep that in mind. The other piece too is I will mention that if you want to learn more about where to get information about SecureSync itself, we do have a how-to.securesync.com site. And what that site will take you to is a page with a lot of what I'm certainly showing at the moment, and what that will, and we get questions about what type of resources are available. This is a good one to go to. For those who are installing it for the first time, on this page, you'll get a Getting Started section. The downloads that I'm mentioning are here as well. But if you click on the Get Started section under Begin, this will open up, again, the location where you may download the application for these different, appropriate devices, but also how you may log in. Users can log into SecureSync and videos about how to back up and share. And specifically, if someone needs to sign in, they can get into their My Services page. As you'll see, this will go right out to SecureSync and get right out to that page. So know that that's there. This is also available to you in the admin center as you are configuring and setting up SecureSync initially. So what I want to show is something I put together here, and that is the actual installation of the service itself. And I want to go through that because we get quite a few questions. So just to speed this up a little bit, once you download the application, and I'm going to be showing this how we can install this on a single device. I'll show you in a little bit how you can get this on other devices as well, but in other words, doing a mass install. But right now, what you may do is when you install, and in this case, I'm on a Windows machine, but this could be done for Mac as well. And you'll go through the installation, pretty typical. It's about 131 meg file to download and about a little over 550 megs when the file is on the device. You'll go through the installation process and eventually get through the login page. That login will be, of course, you or your employee's username associated with the account. And then what you have an option to do, and this is really a focus of today, is our two modes. You may select file syncing mode or file streaming mode. Now, if you're using a Windows device, both of these are both of these options are available. If it is a Mac OS, Apple Mac OS, then the file sync mode is available. So between these two, you have some options. File syncing mode, and what that allows you to do is any content that you have on your local machine. So like we've traditionally done for years, you're creating Microsoft documents, images, videos, PDFs. There's really over 600 file types that'll use. When those are created on that local machine, they're going to be syncing into SecureSync. And SecureSync is one of our services, and the data is stored in our data centers. And this works well, certainly if you have larger hard drives and you want to be able to work both on and offline. That works well. File streaming mode, as I mentioned, again, for Windows only. This is available for those who, let's say you're in who want to access files online only. And by doing that, what that does in some of the situations with customers we talk to, they may be a bank, a credit union, an area, it could be, again, in healthcare or other, where you may not want documents sitting on that local machine because you're concerned about it perhaps getting lost, stolen. And in that case, all of the files are in the cloud, and you can go and get to them. So you wouldn't have anything locally until you download them. So in a practical sense, this is what the two modes look like. Here on the left is the file sync client, and what that looks like. So this is SecuriSync, and with every time I'm saving a document and saving files, it's of course saving to my local file, my local folders or various locations. I click here, you can see these. And then if I'm offline, I can get to this content and use it as I normally would. File streaming mode looks very similar, but what you'll see here is this gray cloud. And I still have visibility to the files, but what I don't have is these are not taking up hard drive space on my machine. So this is another option. So again, for those reasons that I stated, or if there is a hard drive with less space, this could be a great option for that. To be able to get to the content, of course, again, if I'm in file sync mode, like here on the left, they're going to be on my hard drive. Here, if I want to be able to get to content, I would need to first of all get to it and click and then download it onto my local machine, and then I could work on it. Let's say I have Microsoft Office or another application, could be a drawing, Adobe application. Then you can work on it locally on your machine. So that's the differences between those two, initially. What I will mention still is SecuriSync in both instances is still, you have the application that will be installed on the machine, and you can get to the files using this, or certainly that's on the device itself. I'm going to move this over here. Beyond that, then, the what I want to mention is, and I'm going to take you back to the PowerPoint that I'm showing. Get to the next one here. Is as there are questions, there is an Intermedia knowledge base. And if you just type in your browser Intermedia knowledge base, that will take you to this page. And on this page, you'll be able to search for information such as how to install the client deployment tool, and it's here. And if you want to, they're done by articles, and you can see the article here. Just simply type that number into this page here if you're not familiar with it, and you can get to these articles. So I've included these in the presentation today. So I know some of you will be working with mass deployment, so that's I wanted to make sure that that's included. So again, with file sync and stream, I've gone over most of this, but here are some highlights. Again, file sync mode, once you install, you can choose either one of these. Now, a question that comes up is, may you install both at the same time on the same machine? And the answer is no. You may choose file sync or file stream mode and run one of those at one time. However, but because SecuriSync can be used for a single user, an employee, it is possible with multiple devices, multiple PCs, or you could have a PC and a Mac, or both PCs. Get the idea? It's something like that. You could install file sync mode on one device and file streaming on another. I spoke with someone recently who has a desktop device, and they're going to install the file sync mode on the desktop, but for the laptop that they'll be using for mobile, obviously, the file streaming mode makes more sense. So you certainly may do that. The other piece too is, if you do want to make changes to it later on, you can do that too. Another question I get is, do we have a table, or can we show you what is best for each one of the modes? We do, and again, using this 49811 article, you can go out to our knowledge base site, and here's just a representation of part of that of that comparison guide. So if you want to know more about it, this is an easy way, certainly, to look for that. Lastly, too, we do get questions about, well, once we've installed, can we uninstall or move between modes? And you may. And it's, again, described in this article that I'm showing here. Once the mode is installed, you may go through and make a change. But what I would strongly recommend is keeping the mode or deciding on which mode you'd like initially, particularly for customers. Although, again, you may go back and change it. It's just easier as you're doing the initial setup. So the other part that I want to make sure I'm touching on is another part of the question is, or that we get, is SecuriSync and Office Online, and what does that look like? So I'm going to point you to a couple of resources. If you pull up YouTube and type for SecuriSync and Office Online, that will take you to a video that was produced a while back, and here it is. And what this does is it walks through, how you may use Microsoft Word or Microsoft products and SecuriSync together. So if it isn't clear, for those of you who are using the subscription version of Office, which we can offer, it works and integrates with SecuriSync. And in this way, what it allows you to do is co-authoring and co-editing together. So as I play out this video, and you should be able to see it all right on the screen, we have two people who are editing at the same time, and you should be able to see on the screen this here. You'll see between Laura and Boyan making edits in real time. So this, in order for this to work, what you would do is you would sign in with your Office apps subscription, or the version of Office that is a subscription version, so it falls under the 365 category. Once you're in and signed into, of course, SecuriSync, you may start using this tool. And in this case, we have 2 users making updates. You could have more. There are some limitations. Those are Microsoft imposed on how many Excel or Word or PowerPoint users can be used, and it's a little different for each application. But just know that that's there, and that you may use that. And I would say probably up to 6 people, 10 on some of the others. So 6 people on Excel and 10 on some of the other applications. So that is the installation and how you may search. The last part of this that I do want to mention, and I'm going to use the sync site. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to go, rather than working on my desktop, go out to browsing in the web. This is going to take me out to the companion service. If you're not familiar with it already, we do have both the online version as well as, or the online component, as well as the desktop, as I've been showing. These are all included, so it's not an additional piece. What you may do is search for information. So it does provide, we do get questions about how SecuriSync may be used as a document management system. Now, within scope, it works quite well. You may do searches, and this does support things like, if I typed, you could see 50 time saving steps. This is, of course, in the title. If I also wanted to find things like words I used in one of the documents, what it will do is it will find information within the body of a contact itself, or in the body of a document, or word within the body of the document, excuse me. So if I was looking for something like contract services, we can look for information that is in there that can be found as well. So it doesn't just need to be in the title, it can also be embedded within the document. So the rest of this, if I needed to, again, get to other content, you'll see this online. I still have access to it. And if need be, I can download this to my local desktop and work on it. Or again, if I needed to, like I was showing before in that video, if I want to, I can work on these documents online. And if I'm logged into or signed into Word, in this case, Word Online or Excel, then I could work on this in real time. Very good. Well, that's what I wanted to make sure that I could show how that can be done, and I want to leave some time certainly for questions. So we have that available. So I'm going to turn it back to Kim. I think we have some other questions that have come in.
Yeah, great, Mike. Thanks very much. That was very informative. And we do indeed have some questions. So if you wouldn't mind just turning off your screen share, thank you. I'm going to display the questions. And thank you, everybody, for adding. And some of these I think got answered, but I'm just going to go ahead and display them anyway. So the first one is, where's the info on the mass installation process?
Yep. Let me put that. We can send that to you.
I did put a link to the two KBs that you mentioned in the attendee chat, the 2738 and the 49811.
Yeah, the 2738 file is that one, and that is the mass client deployment option.
Okay, great. Yeah. So let me just turn this on. That would help. Let me put these again in the chat because it looks like the chat had been disabled. So I want to make sure everybody gets these. Just bear with me here while I do this. So in the chat now are the 2 KBs that Mike had reviewed earlier, and the 2738 goes over the mass installation. So, all right, great. Thank you for that. So we actually had a couple of these questions come in, and I wasn't surprised to see it. Do you have any idea on when the file streaming is coming for the Mac?
It's no, Brad, and I'm just because you're asking, it's on the roadmap. I don't know, and that's we do check on that from time to time, and right now I just know it's on the roadmap. It's something to consider because we do have customers who would want to use that for the Mac.
Yeah, I saw your frowny face, Brad, when we talked about how it doesn't do the file streaming in the Mac, and so I'll definitely pass that on to the product managers. So if you're already set up in file syncing mode, can you easily switch to file streaming mode? And again, I think this question came in before you covered it. But do you want me to stop this Q&A and you show that piece again, or is that possible or no?
Yeah, it certainly is. What you let me get the. Glad you asked. Let me do this. All right. So there is this article, how to switch, and you should be able to see my screen. Looks like it's coming through. How to switch between SecuriSync modes. And this article, 55128, specifically goes into that. It may be done. There is some work of which you need to, of course, uninstall and reinstall. That's why I'm recommending it would be best if you know what mode is set up first. But with this audience, you may want to try switching between modes with some files and see how that works. But you certainly may do that. Yeah, we've made that available.
Right. I did put the link to that in the chat as well.
Good.
All right. So this is an interesting one, and Mike, I don't know if you know the answer to this, and if you don't, we can certainly research it. But wondering why we can't run with a combination of both modes, like some other systems that allow you to choose specific folders, that one's in streaming, maybe others in file syncing, without having to uninstall and switch the mode. Do you have any insight into that, Mike?
Yeah, it comes up quite a bit, and that's something we've looked at. I've talked to the product team. I think that's been it has come back to them to consider. What I will say, if you're when in file sync mode, as a matter of fact, maybe I'll show you that. It is possible to do somewhat of a hybrid of that. So to answer your question directly, it is not yet available to blend the two together. But what I'm going to show you here is when I'm in this mode. So right now, as I mentioned, the files are being synced in the file syncing mode. What you may do in some cases, and I don't know if this is kind of at the heart of the question, but you may, in the gear icon that within the application, what you may do is folder selection. And what the folder selection would allow is for you to be able to select what files you could in fact sync to your local machine. So in essence, these files are still in SecureSync in the web. What they're not doing is syncing to your local machine. So in many cases, I talk to customers who are using there's starting large files, sometimes 4K files, sometimes 2 hours in length. And those are gigantic files once rendered. You don't want those typically downloading each time, with various versions to your machine. It's kind of an extreme example, but it does come up. In that case, you could deselect where those files are and they wouldn't be on your machine. You still have visibility to them online, but you're right. You don't have, if I deselect these, I wouldn't see, those folders in this case on my desktop would go away. So that's the closest that I can recommend with the option we have today. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you for that, Mike. Kind of an interesting workaround. You just got to make sure you communicate with your users well that they won't see those files at all, even the little thumbnail on their local drive. Yeah. Okay, next interesting question from Brian. Regarding being concerned about sensitive files on hard drives in file streaming mode, since they're downloading when opening, is there an easy way to undo the download after the user is done with the file?
So to undo it, in other words, that may be something.
Well, so let me see.
Let me think.
I think so, Brian. I think I'm understanding you. So it downloads it at least into the download folder. I would think, right, Mike?
Yes.
And I think what Brian's asking is is there an easy way to wipe that out afterwards so that we are maintaining that security for the sensitive files?
So I'm thinking like HIPAA or finance or legal, something like that. So it would, if it's downloaded onto the machine, you would be working on it, and let's say you're working on it locally on the machine, it would be there locally, but I think I get it. I'll have to think about that one, and Brian, you and I can certainly talk. Yeah, and I'll answer. I see some other questions coming in. I don't have a good answer for you at the moment, but I know I think I get the question. If it is downloaded and installed or downloaded on the machine and they're working on it, then it would be there. If they're working it kind of in the virtual or in the streamed mode and they're working online, then of course it would not. They can still edit it, like a Word doc or something like that. But that may be one I can follow up with on that. I just want to know a little bit more of how that's being applied. So thank you for asking the question.
Okay. All right, makes sense. Will you discuss audit trails, security, and permissions? Well, that might be a little bit more than we have time to go into right now, but is there a Reader's Digest condensed version that you can, or maybe some KBs we can point them to?
Yeah, there certainly is. And Mark, if need be, I can certainly send those to you because we'll have your information. I have in another webinar that we did, went through some of that. But yes, audit trails, security, permissions, all of that I talked pretty extensively to, and I can show you the admin interface and how you may set that, because that is an area that can distinguish our service certainly from some others.
Okay. All right, great. So we'll follow up with you directly on that, Mark. As you mentioned, it will only allow one mode. I think we kind of talked about this one. Is there any future plan? So this is definitely a piece of feedback that I'm going to be taking to the product team. I'm hearing you all loud and clear because it's coming from multiple folks around wanting to be able to allow both modes on a folder, perhaps a folder basis, or even at a file level. So I will definitely send that feedback to the product team, and we'll make sure that they're aware that you guys are requesting that. Will you send a copy of the slides to us? So, Mike, what do you think? Are your slides shareable with everybody?
Likely, yeah. That's something I can probably do. I took them all just from images that we have and built them myself. So, yes. Let me just go through them, and they should be fine though. Otherwise.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So we will commit to sending the slides out with the follow-up email that comes then. So thanks for that question, Ed. Please review how to use SecuriSync with Office apps again. You said log in with Office, but not where to log in. SecuriSync,
yeah.
ShareSync, other? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. And so the way that you need to sign in is when you sign in with Office apps or Office apps, that's the way that we've kind of branded them internally, but it is the Microsoft name for them, and they're the exact same product, is Microsoft 365 apps for business or apps for enterprise. So that's what we're referring to. It's not the perpetual or OEM version of Office. It needs to be the subscription Office. When you sign in to Office, and just give me a second.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Are you going to share your screen?
I will.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and do that. And give me just a second. I'm going to pull up the Office site that I can share.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, I'll just mention that one of our very smart attendees, Travis, mentioned that the webinar is being recorded, of course, and we always send out a recording, a link to the recording of the webinar. So the folks that were asking for the slides, it will be in the recording. So I think that we'll probably just use that method to get the information to everybody rather than trying to send out a PowerPoint along with the link to the recording. So thank you for that, Travis. That's using the old beaner.
Yep. So when you sign in, this is an admin account I have for 365, but if you go out to office.com, or when you have Office apps, more than likely, and when it's that Microsoft 365 apps for business, apps for enterprise, you would more than likely install that. Well, you would install that first and be using the desktop version of, we'll just say the Office subscription. So you would sign in like I have here. What I did prior to our call today is I set this up where I have it in this environment, and you get then the Office 365 version of these. And you're going to sign in using an Office, the first time, the office.com account. And once you're signed in using your credentials, so whatever your Office and your password is for that account, then SecuriSync will see that account. Now you don't have to sign in before installing SecuriSync. You can do them both of this, one after the other. The order isn't as important, but you'll get into your Office 365 account and you'll be able to get to this. What I will mention is the first time you set up the Office apps, the Office splash screen that comes up will show, in the case of Word that I was just showing, will show Word 2019. You then need to sign in to the Office application with your username credentials. Then that splash screen, upon the next time you open it, will change to Word, PowerPoint, Excel 2016, or excuse me, 365, like I was just showing. So again, it'll take a moment to bring that up, but that splash screen that appears, yeah, it's just going to go right to the application. But that's how it's done. But yes, you do need the Office 365 or the Office apps login.
All right, great, thank you. All right, so obviously we've gone a little over on time, but these are great questions, so we're going to just keep going through. There is an option to omit folders. Will there be an option to include specific folders other than the defaults?
Yes, you may. So the way I read that question is it's twofold. The administrator may omit or decide which folders will be backed up and synced, as well as, if you allow it, the end users can do that. So I'll show you what that looks like. Thanks, Kim.
Mm-hmm. So if I'm understanding you right, Mike, the administrator can set like sort of the default folders that are synced for everybody. Excuse me. And then if the administrator allows it, and the users can then add to that.
Yes, and I'll show you. So this is going to go. It's going to be. I'll kind of go twofold. This will answer one of those earlier questions as well. So I'm in the admin center, and just quickly, the typical end users or employees would not be able to see this. So as an administrator, Under the policies section, you may determine as an administrator which folders, and if you can give me a thumbs up, let me know if this is what you're asking for, or thumbs down if it's not. Under the backup policy, you may select the folder location. So my SecuriSync is the default, but also desktop and documents. So at a global level, you may do this. And just to cover on one of the others, and I'll show you something else. This is where the audit log, and there's a question about, okay, I think I know the other question, where you may set, somebody was asking about security, backup, your retention policy. That's all here done in the admin center. So you can go a little more, and that's a question, if need be, we can hop on the phone and I can show you a little more in depth. In terms of setting the folders, if I go back to here and I go back to the gear and the folder selection, these are all going to be backed up because it's under the sync folder. And you as a user can decide which one of these you will and will not do. As an administrator, you can choose to back up or not back up these, but not necessarily the subfolders. If you're at the top level folder, documents, as an administrator, you wouldn't necessarily be able to set these others file locations, or to remove them, I should say.
Thanks for that, Mike. I just want to mention that I did put into the chat over on the left-hand side the name and email address for the sales product specialist for ShareSync. So Anthony Andrews is sort of a sales overlay for the SecuriSync ShareSync product. And you can contact him directly if you would like to set up any kind of demos or get in any more information about how ShareSync works. You can also do demos for prospective customers of yours. He's a great guy. I encourage you to take advantage of working with him if you are interested. And we've gotten more questions in, so we're going to keep going. To be clear, streaming works for all folders, desktop. I think we just covered that, right? Not just the SecuriSync folder, correct? And I think we just covered that.
Yes, streaming will work for those other locations if they are selected by the admin. So in that case, yes, documents, downloads, and those are all the options. Music, pictures, and videos were the other three that may be selected.
All right, excellent. Thanks, Brad. If an employee leaves the firm, how do I remove folders, files that were synced to his laptop? Do you want to show?
Yeah, there's a couple ways. Let me go. I'll show you this. Okay. So under the policies section again, under the devices area, and then I'll show you the second piece for policies. But under devices, for a device that I know in this case Alex is using, and I can see where it is, I can remote wipe the SecuriSync data that is on that machine. So if somebody leaves, now of course they need to be connected to the internet, but if you do it, before they leave, that content will be removed from the device. So it is not being removed from SecuriSync. In other words, your company or your organization or that organization would retain the data. It just would not be available on that device anymore. So if there was any data stored, someplace else, a thumb drive, we can't get to that, but this is removing the SecuriSync data. What it isn't removing is, let's say someone had a corporate device or it was a personal device, because you may choose either. It wouldn't remove their, family photos and pictures and other content. It's only going to remove. It will only remove the SecuriSync data. This isn't like ActiveSync or one of the others where it would essentially remove the operating system and everything. But that's by design. Okay. Just related to that, because it comes up under where I was going with the policies and access policies, if need be, traditionally we'd had a default where SecuriSync could be installed on as many devices. A little while ago, we allowed now for an access policy, so SecureSync may be installed on one desktop or one mobile device. So that is there, particularly as people are working from home. You can make sure that they're either using, well, you just limit the installations of SecureSync. It's not that you can't change it, of course, but this will help. And this right now is a global setting. So we've talked about making that available for by group or groups of users, but as it is today, it is a global setting.
All right, very good. Thank you. Let's see. When the streamed file is finished being worked with and closed, it goes back to the cloud. Does it stay on the hard drive, and if so, how long?
Yeah, no, it would be streamed and back up to it would be saved back to the stream location or that file in the cloud. In terms of if it would be on the hard drive, in the obvious sense, if someone downloaded it and saved it again, like we'll just say a Word doc, Excel, something like that, then it would remain on that hard drive because they've effectively moved it outside of SecureSync. One of the questions or a couple we've had is, what if it's on for like a second or two, or milliseconds? That is possible if that's more of the question. Otherwise, no, it's going to be, it would be a couple seconds at best. And I don't know if that's kind of the nature of the question. We had one or two that were similar to that. Otherwise, it won't be on the local hard drive for in the practical sense, really much time at all.
Okay, great. I think we covered this one just in that last section there.
Yeah, if they're synced, let me just, and I'll add that because it's asked a little differently. If they're synced to the machine, if they're using SecureSync, again, you may remove it, showing what I just showed. If it is, if they move it to a different file location, then you'd have to use a different service.
Okay. What I mean, can I add a separate folder somewhere else on the disk?
Right. Yeah. If the folders need to be, we provide a fair amount of flexibility. So it's not just under the SecureSync location like I was showing. You may put folders, let's say, in the in the download section or pictures and like the desktop. But if someone were to take it or put files someplace else on the machine, you could potentially use this to also gather them, or I suppose if you could set up a sync location, that would work. But I'm hesitating a little because if somebody is saving them in a location that won't be synced, that could be even it could still be on the C drive or it could be on a another drive. Then those files, first of all, would not be synced and could be lost, but they wouldn't be, you couldn't delete them at that point.
So basically, it needs to be within one of those folders that was listed there in HostPilot, right?
Correct. With the understanding is that you do want those files to be recovered. I mean, the downside of that question can be kind of interpreted two ways, but the downside is if they are storing it not in SecureSync and there's all the potential problems with a laptop machine, whatever it is, then they couldn't be recovered, at least using SecureSync.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, great. Where does the PC backup license come into play? I'm confused on this in the retail pricing list.
The older PC backup service we had.
Give us a thumbs up, Brad, if that's what you meant.
Yeah, we did PC.
I guess that's what it is, he says.
Okay, yeah, that was a service we had before. This is far more robust in terms of security and access across devices. I mean, I'm talking about the installation really on Windows and Mac, but remember, you may still access files on mobile devices as well.
Yeah, so Brad, if you're having any confusion related to the pricing list, I'm going to have your partner account manager reach out to you and just have a conversation with you about it and just make sure you're clear on everything. Okay, some applications save files in their own folders without a user option to change location. For example, Microsoft Notes. So that's a good point. Any
Yeah,
idea?
so if you're Microsoft Notes, you mean like Notepad or OneNote? Um, if it, um, they, if they're on the C drive, and I'm just saying that, as general rule, you may be able, if it is in a location that the quick answer is if it's in a location that's outside of the C drive or in that SecuriSync folder, you wouldn't be able to, it wouldn't be backed up. What you could do is take that location, or take that folder location and move that into under the SecuriSync folder. That's what I did with OneNote. Is my OneNote files here for what I do, but also in the example I'm showing are all syncing back to OneNote. That's probably the best answer I can give on that.
Okay, great. So that's the last of the questions that came in that way. There is a couple in the chat. We have one from Jim here. It says, we see multiple devices from many of our users, but it's the same device. What's the best method to clean those up? It's most often a SecuriSync version difference. We don't want to use the wipe option. Have you
So
heard of that at all, Mike?
if you're using the same device, so in other words, the same type of device, I think is what I understood. So if they're multiple Android or multiple PCs, is what I'm going to guess.
Mm-hmm.
You may, and is the question to update the client or to remove? Is it more of the heart of wiping the device?
I think it's more just that they see the same device listed twice with different versions of SecuriSync. And
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, he's asking like how can they clean that up? Yeah, same PC listed numerous times, he says.
Well, one of the reasons you see this here multiple times is because I'm using a VM virtual environment or virtual machine, and it's coming up in order to show this. If, however, and that's a lot of what's here, a single user should have a different device name for their device. So in this case, Boyens, we have, or I have multiple here. If you're referring to what I'm showing, this is because there are, again, I'm using just to be able to show multiple screens or multiple instances, a couple of virtual machines, but an individual should have differences, or this should be different. I'm sorry, for a single device, whatever the last updated version is what you should be able to see. In terms of cleaning those up, I don't know necessarily if you would have something like what I'm showing here, because I'm using all the same. I'll have to look into that a little further, if I can even clean up my list here. But these are theoretically different machines. They're just all kind of coming from the same pool of VMs I'm using.
Okay, great. And what I would say, Jim, is have you contacted support yet about that and asked them about it? I'm just wondering if it's being seen by other customers. I do see that one other person wrote in that they have the same issue, and I'm just wondering if you contacted support and worked with them and asked them what the best method to remove those duplicate entries.
Yeah, and I'm going to look into that as well. I saw that note come from. Yeah, do check with support. Yeah, I've not been
Yeah,
asked that before, but I
yeah,
know
that's
how
the
I'm
first
setting these up.
that's the
Yeah,
first I've heard of that. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. We probably could remove that. I'll get a sharper answer, at least so I know if that comes up again.
Okay. All right, I think that is all of our questions, and we went way over, but really great content, great engagement. Thank you very much for all of your questions, Mike. Nice job. Thank you for your presentation and your demo and your answering of the questions. And everybody have a great rest of your day, and thank you for attending. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.